welcome back to another episode of the Self-Made Podcast. I am your host, Chloe Trca, and I have a little co-host today. I have a guest on, my little brother, Jake. Jake, say hi.
What's up, guys?
Every single time I bring my brothers on the podcast, everybody goes crazy and loves it. So I was like, you know what, let's bring Jake on more often, because if you didn't know, if you're new here, me and my brother, he's my roommate. Like, we live together here in Arizona, so we're together all the time. And I'm like, we make content together all the time as well. Like, we have a TikTok and Instagram, like Trca Twins. And so I'm like, you know what, maybe we'll start podcasting more together. I don't know. But you guys are always asking us questions. We get DMs, comments, everything about like living together and living across the country and moving, because we recently moved from Iowa to like the Phoenix area in Arizona. About 6 months, has it been like 6 months? Since August.
In August.
So about six months ago. And so some of the questions are regarding that. We're just going to chat. And yeah, we're just going to see where the podcast goes. I have some questions, some prompts, like advice from you guys on Instagram. So if you don't follow me on Chloe Trca or Trca Twins or the Self-Made Podcast. I have a lot of different accounts, but I have them all linked below in the show notes. And I'll link Jake as well, too, if you want to check him out. But let's get into the questions. So the first question is, and this is a good one. I feel like this is something we both kind of have went through like a period of recently. And it's the loneliness you feel in your 20s. So I feel like everyone experiences this. And it's something I think I experienced when I was back in Iowa, because I'm 22 for reference, Jake's 20. So we're very early on still in our like 20s. But I think the thing with feeling lonely in your 20s is it's often like through your growth period. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. I feel it's in the time where it's the most unexpected.
Yeah.
And you are feeling like a desire kind of, oh, it's going to be a big change in my life, and it's going to be the best change, it's going to be the happiest change, like moving across the country, for instance.
Yeah.
Personally, I expected, oh my gosh, I'm going to move across the country, I'm going to make so many new friends so fast, it's going to be like a game changer, kind of, like a fresh restart button.
Mm-hmm.
But then reality does hit you, and it's, I would say, from my experiences, it probably does hit everybody in some type of way, shape, or form. It's not going to hit everyone the same, or you're not going to go through the same things.
Yeah.
But it's almost kind of, for me, it was a big reality check.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from a smaller state in Iowa, we were more well known.
Yeah.
It was kind of everywhere you went. It's not, we didn't know someone everywhere we went, but you kind of recognized people. You could put kind of a name to a face, and you never felt kind of lonely because you were always surrounded by people you thought you might know.
Yeah, I definitely think moving at our like in our 20s and our early 20s like accelerated like the loneliness stage, because I think regardless of if you move across the country or if you're just kind of getting into like adulthood, you're gonna feel it either way. But if you move across the country in your early adulthood, you're really gonna feel it, just because it is like a complete culture like shock almost, because we are from a small town in Iowa. You go to the grocery store, you're gonna see 5 people you know. You go to the mall, like you have so many friends, people you grew up with your entire life. So we definitely went through that. I would say shock of like loneliness, I would say, moving here, but it forces you, I think, putting yourself into a situation like that, it forces you to branch out. And I knew it would. But I also think that everything happens for a reason, especially like in the specific and right timing. And so I think it's important, one, to understand like loneliness is normal and everyone kind of experiences it. Like kind of Jake was saying, it's in different regards though. It's in different like seasons of your life. It's at different points in your life. It's for different reasons. Some people, it's because they moved and they have to make new friends. Some people, it's they got a new job and they don't know anyone at work. But sometimes it's also too just like graduating, and say you went to like high school or college or whatever, you're always surrounded by like a community of some sort, whether you're like on a team or you're in classes or literally anything. I feel like your entire childhood, for most people, you have a sense of community, you have a sense of people, and then once you graduate college, I feel like that's the first time where it's like you're stepping into such a new chapter of your life that it filters out a lot of that community.
It's so raw.
Yeah.
Like, it's the rawest thing, I would say. It's
like, I feel like it almost is like the beginning of your life again, in a weird sense, because
like
everything's a fresh start.
A brand new start. And what I kind of think of it as is now you're kind of the small fish in the ocean again. You have to, not even in a way make a name for yourself in that sense, but in a way you have to make kind of a name for yourself by going out, introducing yourself to others, putting yourself in uncomfortable environments that you know you need to be in because you were going through a change in your life. Just by like us, we've recently started going to a different church, and it's a youth group, and it's Thursday nights, and we've been there a couple times, but we've always gone there, walked in after everyone's already in there, and then we sit in the back and hide.
Like, literally, you guys, there's probably 20 some rows, and we would sit in the furthest back row so no one would see us. Like, but that's okay. Like, stepping in, like, getting your foot wet is okay. Like, you don't have to full-fledged, like, put yourself in that environment, but I'm glad we did.
But at the same time, you really do have to. I would kind of go against that. I think
everything does happen for a reason, though. Like, I think God kind of had us in both situations so we could, like, appreciate the fact that we're in the front row now. Like, last time we went, we were in, like, the mosh pit front row where, like, the people who have been going to that, like, event, that night, that youth group night, it's, like, a young adult night at the church. But, like, people up in the front are, like, the OGs. Yeah. And it really did feel like our first time going again because it's been a while, too. And
we've always, when we went, we'd sit in the car and we'd be like, oh, my gosh, like, I don't want to go in. I don't want to go in. Like, all these people. And it's not even... It's a lot of people. It's a couple hundred people.
It's a lot.
And Chloe and I, we at the time didn't know anybody, and what we needed to do was probably go there and start introducing ourselves because they are so welcoming, they're so loving.
It's a church. Like, it's a bunch of Christian,
they want to make new friends and make you feel like you're at home. Yeah. But we were just too scared to go and do that. Yeah. But then every single time we'd go into the service, and then after we'd get back into the car and we'd look at each other and we'd be like, that was the best thing we've ever been to. Like, I cannot wait to go back. Yeah. But then we would go back and it would be a repeat thing. Yeah. It is so scared to go in. It is causing us both to have anxiety to go in there because we knew we probably weren't at the point of our lives to go up to random people, introduce ourselves. And then now I've met a very good friend, and he is a big part in that church.
Like, coincidentally. So we didn't even know.
He wanted to take us there, and it was probably the biggest amazing change that we've ever had. It was, we did everything that we've always been so scared of.
Yeah, like, he kind of pulled us and dragged us along into it, and I think that is a really key thing. And when you are lonely, is you have to open up your network and the opportunity to put yourself in situations that, like, are going to help. Like, you can utilize people and you can utilize networking and friends. And I think the coolest part about, like, kind of restarting and resetting in your early 20s, like, feeling alone, is you have a really cool opportunity to really be intentional with the people that you put into your life. Yeah. And, like, you get to handpick your friends. And I think that's, like, really the only point in your life that you always can, but I think growing up, I want to say, like, you're friends with people you associate with, people on your soccer team or your baseball team or whatever group or music band, whatever you do, like, that's your group of friends, and you just associate it because you have common interest. But just because you have a common interest doesn't mean that they're necessarily, like, a good influence on you. And I think, and my friends growing up were great, I love them, but it's just, once you grow up and you mature, you have different, like, values and priorities that you look for in friends. And so I think moving here in our early 20s was a really cool opportunity because we got to really, like, transform our lives. And then after we kind of went through, like, a transformative phase was when we were ready to, like, start reaching out and, like, making friends. And we've been really lucky. Like, everyone I've met here has been, like, amazing. Like, the friends I have here are, like, the highest quality friends I could probably, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but they're all, like, centered around God, and they're all, like, all of them have similar, like, lifestyles as me and values, and we can have, like, really wholesome, heartfelt conversations. It feels like I've known them all forever, even your friends. Like,
yeah, and I will say is, it takes a lot of time too with this. We've lived here since August, so I would say that's kind of around the 6 month kind of period of time. And I will be honest, it's taken me up until now to meet newer friends. I've always had friends here. I've had a best friend here that goes to ASU that
from home,
like, that was normal, but I knew I needed to extend my friends and find new ones as well. And it's taken me 6 months now to finally open up. And it wasn't that I was scared. It was when you're going through that period of time of loneliness, you really have to almost like go for the loneliness 100% to really find what you are looking for, find yourself, find whatever was holding you down, the weight that was holding you down to make you feel lonely. You have to 100% be out of that kind of time frame of your life and cut all of those kind of the weights off your feet from in the lonely zone. And then it's such a refreshing feeling going out and making these new friends, because you know who you are now, you know your wants and you know your desires, and you're not going and putting yourselves in these uncomfortable environments knowing that's not what you want yet. It is what you want, it's just you haven't been surrounded by that yet. And it's amazing, truly.
I completely agree. I think often we look at like the loneliness period of our life and feeling lonely is such a negative thing, but I actually sorry, oh my gosh, I actually think it's like a really, really important phase in my life, and it's the most uncomfortable, and it can be, I don't want to say dark because I was never like sad and depressed, but for some people it is. But I feel like, sorry, I need to take a drink of water. But I feel like it's the most transformative phase because it actually gives you time to like quiet your mind, quiet your environments, quiet your surroundings, and really like reflect on yourself and like dig deep, and you get to know yourself. When you don't have a bunch of other people to distract you from who you are, you start looking in the mirror a lot more often. And I think that was like the biggest wake up call for you being here, is like it was a lot of self work. And I think it reminds me too, like kind of jumping back to what you were saying about how you have to kind of go through that period and get through it before you can kind of realize the type of friends you want to make. And I feel like people often talk about that like for relationships, and it's like you have to love yourself enough. You should love yourself before you try to like love somebody else like in a relationship. But it's also kind of similar with like friendships as well. It's like you need to figure out who you are and like what you represent, because that's what you're going to attract in a friend as well. And like the people I'm friends with now, a year ago I wasn't to their level. Like they wouldn't have probably wanted to be friends with me genuinely. Like we weren't thinking similarly. Like
your
big
mindsets,
time you, like the guys you hang out with now, and they've all been in your position too. Like everyone you've met is like,
and that's the craziest thing, not to interrupt you, with going through what I went through kind of with my alone time and my time where I spent by myself. Now that I have came out of that kind of, I am still working. I would say we both still work on ourselves every single day. But opening up to these other people, and the friends I have now are older, and I think it is amazing truly, because I can look up to them as mentors and as a best friend, and that I think that's the best thing that I've ever done in my life. But it is kind of crazy because all of them that I've talked to, when I'm like telling them these things and asking them these questions for like advice, they look at me and they're like, Jake, like I was going through that exact same thing when I'm 20. Like you're actually way ahead of the game, and they wish they could have done what I was doing at the age of 20. And it is very, I guess, reassuring, and it makes me feel good that the direction I am going is the right direction. And I now don't feel like I was the only one that went through that, because every single person I've talked to, they're like, Jake, like everybody kind of goes through that. Like, and most of them were like, I went through that exact same thing. Like I used to do those things. I used to do that. I used to say those things. And it is very, I guess, reassuring. And having like Chloe is amazing, because I can ask her for advice, and it's a different type of advice. It's not from a boy or from like an older guy. It's from a girl, and that's also a great kind of corner to see it from too, because then she can see it as a boy's position.
We learn a lot from each other, being a girl and a guy.
And then I can also learn all these things from my other friends, and then I can help Chloe with those as well. Just, it all comes, what goes around, I would say, comes around and for the best.
I feel like you were saying, kind of, when you're in your like lonely season, you do think you do feel alone, and you feel like everything you're experiencing no one else experiences. But that's the biggest thing, and I don't think you really truly understand it until you go through it, and then you have these experiences where you meet people and you have a conversation and you're like, well, we both experienced that. But even like in my episode last week, and I talked about like my eating behaviors and patterns, like I got some of the most like deep, heartfelt messages, and people were like, I thought that was just me. And it's like I thought the same thing too when I was going through it. And it's like oftentimes we're too like scared to talk about something or open up or share, or you just aren't ready. Like I feel like you don't have to like explain yourself if you're not there yet. But everything comes with time, and I feel like it's just such a journey and such a process. But like the loneliness period, to like I guess sum this whole question section of this episode up, is just like the lonely period is such a good phase of your life. And I think you have to like change your perspective on it though. Like you can't look at it with such a negative lens. You have to look at it as like almost like an opportunity, and be like, okay, this is happening for a reason. This is happening for me, and I need to like take advantage of it. And I went through it when I was back at home, like when I was out of my relationship, all my friends were working like 9 to 5s or going to school, or they went to a different school. Like I had like one friend, and she had a full-time job too, so it was like I worked from home, I worked alone, I took classes pretty much online, I had no friends at school, so I spent a lot of time alone, and I loved it, and I really did like it. But it was, you do feel like it, you naturally kind of like come out of it, like you start feeling a desire to be around more people, and you are like excited to like see people. You have like, it's just a feeling, you know, you'll feel it when you're ready to like
100%.
start.
And I would also like to say is, you're not the only one going through it. Like,
right.
Even when you do feel like you are the only one going through it, and those late night thoughts, like when you are sitting in your bed and you're like, wow, like it couldn't get any worse, just know it does get worse, and you just have to be happy where you're at.
Yeah.
And know that you're not the only one going through it.
Yeah, one thing that's helped, and I think our faith is like honestly paved our entire like life here and like the journey of everything. And I feel like for him, the transformation he's had, like when I say Jake's done like a 380, it's like a it's usually 360, right?
Yeah.
A 380, but we say 380 because it's like you've done more than just a 360. Like every habit and routine and thing like has changed for him. But I feel like when you tie it back to your faith, that's what helps me, I guess, with even like the feeling of anxiousness. I wanted to talk about this and we didn't, but when we were going to that like youth night, we were sitting in the car, and like I said, we were nervous. Like we both have anxiety, like genetically, like he's got it worse than I do, but it's like pretty bad. And mine is really triggered in like big environments with a lot of people, especially people I don't know. I'm really intimidated by like big groups. Like I'm an introverted extrovert, so if you like come up to me, I can talk your ear off, but like I'm not gonna like go up to someone. That's just something I've never done, and I can work on it. But we literally had to sit there, and one thing I heard in our service, our church, like our sermon the week before, was talking about like the Holy Spirit and the devil's working at you and like giving you that anxiety. Like that's what the devil wants at heart, is for you to be anxious and for you not to go into church. And so I had to remind myself and be like, I can't let the devil like win, essentially. And sorry, Jake's kind of got a cough going on, but I was sitting there and I was like, everything in me wanted to not go in. Like I hadn't been that nervous in a very long time. Like I felt like it was like probably the highest level of anxiety I've had since I can remember. Like I wanted to like throw up. I was like anxious. I was like sweaty. Like I was like jittery. I couldn't really. I like literally had to start praying. So I'm like, that's the only thing that can like now calm me down. But I was like having the understanding that anxiety is from the devil, and that's him working. And you have to trust and like pray in those moments. And it's really weird because I've never done that in my life. But I sat there and I prayed and I said, God will never put me through something he doesn't want me to go through and that he can't get me through. And I was like, God is not going to put me in this youth night with all of these Christians and let me have a terrible experience. Like I just knew that deep down, like it was going to be a good night. Everything was going to go perfect. And you guys, like it could not have went better. Like I went in there, and the guy we're friends with, he knows everyone there. Like he knows everyone there. And I'm like, that overwhelms me even. Like I would be more comfortable if we were with one other person. We could walk in, go to our seats and sit down. But I'm like, I knew he was going to be talking to everyone. But that's exactly what we needed.
And let me tell you, he introduced us to every single person. It was probably over 15 people.
It was so, yeah.
But it was, not to interrupt you again, but it was truly amazing. The feeling, like, I don't know if you got it, but like, I just felt like it all just like went away, and the feeling of it all going away, like your anxiety just vanishing. Like, you just kind of beat the devil, and like God knew you would, but you personally then had to do it. Like we were there, we knew we were going to go in, but the devil was telling us, no, you can't. Like it would be so much easier to just go get food and go back home and watch it online. Like you should just do that. But knowing that God is so much stronger, God, like she said, is never going to put you in a situation that isn't going to teach you a lesson if it is bad, but he's then never going to put you in a situation that isn't going to be an amazing outcome. Like you're always going to get through it. Kind of like, just like, well, I guess I kind of lost my train of thought.
Anyway, back to what I'll kind of bounce back off though, but it was like such a wave of relief, but like it was more than that. I feel like that was one of like my God moments, my like aha moments, and I think if you're a Christian, you probably have one of these, and they're the best feelings ever, because I like I said, I prayed about it in the car, and I was like, God, please like allow me to like have these conversations and like feel comfortable and like open up to people, meet new people, and like have a good time and just get everything I need to get out of this experience. And we walked in there, and the first person I met, you guys, like we were with Kyler. Oh, should I say his name? It doesn't matter. We were with our friend, and he introduced us to, or he was talking to this one guy, I don't know, we went to the bathroom, so I had to pee really bad, so I was so anxious, I was drinking all this water, and we came back out and he was talking to somebody, and they literally happened to be talking about macros, like protein, carbs, and fats, like that's my jam, and our friend, like, there was something and he was kind of confused, and I knew exactly the answer, so I piped in, and then it was like a snowball, and me and this other guy started talking for like 5 or 10 minutes about like macros and fitness and social media, like everything that I love to talk about, like my world, and I was like, God put the most perfect conversation in person, like right there, right when I needed it. Like that was the first conversation I had. That was my icebreaker, and I was like a wave of relief just came over me. Like Jake and him like walked away and just let me finish the conversation because they knew I would be fine. Because before I would have been like, Jake, you were not leaving my side. Like I had that conversation with you in the car. Did. I'm like, I will be like your puppy dog. I will be following you because that's how I am. But then I could have probably walked around there the rest of the night alone. But then the next conversation we had, it was one of his friends, started talking about social media, and like literally everything I talked about, I was so comfortable, and it was such a genuine conversation, and I was like, wow. And then we go up and we're worshiping in the front, you guys, like there's so many people at this event.
There's probably over 200 people there.
And it was just like the coolest, because it was funny, again, we were with like a group of friends, a group of like our friends, and they all wanted to go up there, and it's the first thing you do. It's like they play worship music and they have a whole band, and then it's like a mosh pit. You feel like you're at a concert. That's essentially what it is, like a Christian concert. But it's like so many people, and one thing too, at these like non-denominational churches that were like, one, keep in mind we were raised Catholic, so in Catholic services they don't have like Christian bands performing, people don't have their hands up worshiping and praising. Like I've never experienced that since moving here. I've never done that, and I knew every single person in the front does that, and I was like, that intimidated me, that scared me, but it's something I've always wanted to do. Like when you see it and you're sitting in church and you see people doing that, it's like, I wish I had the courage to like do that. It is. It's like cool, but it's a process too, and you can't really force it. Like you can, but it's like
so natural.
I think you ease your way into it, and then you just like feel kind of the Holy Spirit just kind of like, you just do it without even noticing.
Through you, and then you're all of a sudden your hands are up, and you're like, whoa, like what am I doing?
Yeah, and while we were doing that though, I just like had a moment where it was like, I kind of forgot everyone else was there, and you're not, like, you think you're going to be focused on like 200 people behind you, the 500 people around you, but everyone's like so in the moment too that it's like, it was such a wave of relief, and I was like so proud of myself because the choir, or like the main singer, or some guy at the front was kind of saying how he encouraged the people in the back to like come up front, and I was like, it was really cool just to be like, I was them, and I hope like we could like, you know, inspire somebody up there in the front, and it's like, it is scary, but I don't know, that was just such a cool night just because it was something we were like so scared for, so nervous for, and it like went so well, and it was so much fun, and like the word was so good, that like service, like I'm literally excited to go. Like I wish it was like every night, like I could go to that every single night because it's so impactful. But anyway, back to the whole loneliness thing. It's just like it's just a journey, and it's an experience, and again, like Jake said, you're not alone. Like everyone goes through that, and it's such a blessing at the same time. Like you have to like understand that it's happening for you, and that's like, it's okay and it's natural, and I think it just often happens when you're kind of having a shift within yourself, and that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. You're gonna lose some friends, you're gonna gain some new ones. Like I think you kind of have to filter through your old life when you're creating like a new life for yourself, and that often happens in your 20s, and I feel like that's so common to feel lonely in your 20s, but you have to do something about it. I'm gonna be honest, like I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it. It's not just gonna happen. It doesn't just happen. Like you have to put yourself in situations, like
you have to put yourself
you met those people through social media. You have to reach out and like actually go and like meet up with these people. And that's scary. Like meeting with a new girlfriend as a girl or a guy, it's almost just as scary as going on a first date. Like that's exactly what it feels like. It's not fun by any means at first, like the feelings before, but then you have such a good time. So you have to be working on it. But again, it's just like there's no magic timeline to it. You're just gonna know. And I can truly like testify for myself and for him. Like we both went through it, and you just get a feeling of like, you know, like you're ready. But don't rush it. Like just allow yourself to like sit in solitude, because solitude and loneliness, I have a whole episode on that, and they're so different. So I don't want to talk too much on that because like I said, I have an entire episode, but I can link that below because there's a big difference, and I think also too that will kind of help make this make sense. But we're gonna move on to the next question. The next question that we got asked was how to avoid giving into peer pressure and group decisions after moving to a new place. I feel like I guess we kind of just talked about this a little bit, and it's just like you have to, especially if you're moving to a new place, use this as an opportunity to shape your friend group and your community and the people you surround yourself by. Like if they're peer pressuring you into doing something you don't want to do, they're not people you should necessarily be associating yourself with. Like don't hang out with those people because that isn't who you want to become. You've got to seek out people who are already in the position, like kind of like Jake said, his friend, a lot of his friends are his mentors. And so it's like people who it's like, I want to be like them, I want to live a life like them. Surround yourself by people like them, you know? Don't be surrounding yourself by people just because
it's normal and it's okay.
Yeah.
You have to you are who you surround yourself.
Yeah.
I know we say that all the time,
but it's like
but it is the most
ever.
true and raw thing ever, and you have to go into those uncomfortable environments, like we were talking about like previously, to then make yourself feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And because you're not gonna go if it's normal and it clicks right away and you're not scared at all. Those are probably, I hate to say, but not the right people, because if you're wanting to change your habits, change what you want, it shouldn't feel comfortable going and hanging out with them, meeting them for the first time. It should be a little uncomfortable. It should be a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
And you just have to, at the end of the day, okay with like being nervous and being scared. That is a good thing. Like, and the people, I guess, with me doing it, they might be able to see, I'm a little nervous, I am a little scared.
Yeah.
And they're only gonna help you. They're only gonna be the main character in the conversation. They're gonna hold the conversation for you. And even if they don't, okay, that's one bad experience.
Yeah.
And now you just know not to do that again, maybe.
Yeah.
And it is all a time. It is all almost a trial and error until you do find those right people. You will meet people that aren't exactly who you want, and they're still okay to have as friends.
Yeah.
Like, I have many friends that don't have the same desires and like wants that I want in life, and that's not going to change how I feel about them, change the relationship we have, and they know that now, I would say. And so,
well, most of the time I would say, like, a lot of the friends in your life now, they're kind of looking up to you as like a mentor, like you're like paving the way. And I feel like that's why the friendships still last, because if they were like, no, come drink and get high and like party and do all this and don't go to church, like that's when you would cut the ties off. Like you wouldn't be friends with them. And I don't want you guys to think like it's good to have friends who are peer pressuring you into like differences, but
that's not
your friends, you've made such a transformation, but they're also like viewing that and they're asking you questions of like, what have you done? How have you done it? And that's why I think that it's still like a lasting friendship. Yeah, and that's what you have to understand for your previous ones. But for the new ones, like if you're going into a situation and you're like, I'm uncomfortable, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, cut the ties. I'm going to be honest, like cut the ties, because it's doing you no good. It's not fulfilling you. It's not making you a better person. It's causing you stress and anxiety. And that just is what it is. You have to put yourself first in that situation, because there are people out there who are going to like inspire you and lead you and influence you in such a positive way. You just got to seek them out, and you got to pray about it, and you got to put yourself in environments where you can meet those people. Kind of like us going to this church thing. I'm sure we're probably, in 6 months, we could probably make an episode reflecting back, and I'm sure we'll have friends from there that are like really good friends. And so it's like, it's a journey, you know, like we each only have like a handful of friends here, but they're like really high quality, amazing friends and good people. So it's just, it's not worth keeping those ones around that aren't benefiting you 100%. And like making you a better person. And just in your early 20s, you really have to be honest with yourself, because it's such a transformative point in your life too, where like you can go in a lot of different directions, and it's so easy to go down the wrong path because of people in your life and the people you surround yourself with. So if you want something bad enough, make sure the people in your life are supporting you, influencing you, and leading you down that path as well, or you're not going to get there. I promise you, like
100%. And
your willpower cannot outweigh pressure and peer pressure, and it's like inevitable. Like you just it's all about the people you're with. So if you're feeling like they're not leading you down the right path, they're not, and trust that. And
sometimes I will say, to like kind of reflect off of that, that can be sometimes one of the hardest things to do. Like I can personally say I have cut ties with people that it was good to cut ties with them, but then I have also cut ties with people now where I'm looking back and I'm like, okay, Jake, like that was not a good thing to do. They were not hurting you in any way, shape, or form. They weren't trying to lead you down those paths. And that is also like, you're going to make mistakes on your journey as well. And that is something I have learned, and I have been talking with like my friends and stuff on how to genuinely like reach back out to them, even though I did cut ties fully with them.
That's the thing, is like sometimes it's like a seasonal thing, and it's like you're transforming and they're not going to benefit you now, but that doesn't mean you can't like rekindle the friendship. Like a lot of that happened to me too. A lot of my friends, I kind of drifted away from, but now we're still friends. We're maybe not best friends like we were originally, but we still like will get lunch and catch up, and like there's still a support system and they're there for you. It's just a shift in the friendship.
I guess it's almost like the kind of trial and error. You will mess up when you think you are doing good.
Yeah.
But then most of the time when you do what you think is best, 90% of the time I will say it does end up being for the better and being for the best.
Right. Okay, we'll go to the next question. This is how to man up and move out of your hometown. I feel like it's kind of like a Band-Aid situation sometimes because it's so easy to not. It's like, it was honestly not even something I ever really considered until like the opportunity just kind of randomly happened. Like we traveled here, liked it, and we're like, well, maybe we should come out here. And then he got hurt in baseball, and then it just kind of was the right time.
Just kind of one day, I don't know if she texted me or I texted you, and we were just kind of like, okay, like, let's do it. And we flew down here with our dad.
Yeah.
And we had places in mind that we thought we wanted to go look at. We did a lot of research before we did come down and look at places.
Yeah.
And we knew what we wanted and what we needed.
Yeah.
And then we came down and fell in love with the place that we thought we were going to fall in love with. And then it's just kind of...
You just gotta do it.
You just have to do it. It sucks. It's not fun whatsoever. But once you get there and now... like where I'm at in my life, and I can probably speak for her as well, it's the best thing you'll ever do in your life.
If there's one piece of like advice I would give someone, it is to get out of your hometown, because your hometown is your comfort zone. It is your comfort zone, and growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. No. And like, even I can tell you guys, like, I've been back home 3 or 4 times in the past 6 months with like the holidays and just random stuff, and I'm there for about 7 to 9 days at a time, and every single time I noticed myself reverting back to like my old habits, my old routines, and like my old self. And one of the things that I've like noticed in myself is when I'm here, I'm like the best version of myself. I'm like so much more focused on like what I actually want. I'm disciplined, I'm organized, like I just feel good. Like I feel like my best self, and when I go home, instantly it is back to like
your content self.
Yeah, my content self, and I'm not really bettering myself there. And it's still nice to go home because it's like home, 100%. But it's like I wouldn't want to live there and like be creating my life. And like your early 20s, like it's such a critical time in your life, and if you want to do something, if you have it, like, I guess if you have like a feeling inside that's like you feel like you're meant for more, or like you, not even necessarily that, but you just feel like there's something out there, get out of your hometown.
And I don't know. To kind of reflect off of that, to go back, it is not for everybody. Like 100%, it is not for everybody. It just truly isn't. It is meant for people. I would say it's meant for 80% of people, and I would 100% tell all 100% of the people to go and try it. Yeah, but just like Chloe's best friend, she went and moved by herself to Florida, and she tried it. She gave it the experience, and she didn't like it, and now she came back to Iowa, and she knew that is where she could be her best.
Yeah, that's her best self is there. She was not her best self. She was in a really dark place there, and you're not going to create the life you want to live when you're living in a really dark, lonely point of your life. And she came back to Iowa, and she's thriving. Like, she's so happy. But she was like, I'm so glad I did that and experienced that, because it is reassuring to be home and be like, okay, this is where I'm meant to be. But I think, like Jake said, like, you just got to try it. But it's scary and it's hard, and it's not like an easy task. It's just like up and move out of your hometown.
It's one of the hardest things to do.
But I think there's a lot of cool like opportunity. Like, if you're going to school, maybe look for a school it doesn't have to be like out of the state, but it's just like across town, like in a new environment, new people. Like, that is one of the benefits of college, is it forces you
a long car ride that like you don't want to make every single day.
Yeah, like when I went to college, I went to a school 45 minutes away. You guys, I literally came home every single weekend. Like, my life did not change. It felt like I was just like a blink of an eye, I was there, and then I was home, and nothing really changed. And now being here, frick, we have to get a flight. You know, we have a 4-hour flight home. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of one of those things you just have to do, and you have to trust in the process of it, and be okay if it works, be okay if it doesn't. Because it's not, like Jay said, it's not for everybody, but there's, like, I've had nothing but an amazing experience. Like, it's the best decision I've ever made, and I never want to go back, like, right now. Like, I can't even picture, like, I don't even want to go back and, like, travel back home right now. Like, I like whatever just comes here. Like,
exactly. And I guess, not to interrupt you, or not to even, like, kind of change it either, but with us, we were from a small town in Iowa as well, where we were surrounded by cornfields, bean fields, kind of the country, not as suburban area. We had a little bit of city and not as much, and we knew that we adapted to this city, more people, the kind of grind a lot more. And just by coming out here on vacations, just by seeing what everyone does day by day, just kind of seeing the more, it's like, I feel bad like, but like the more expensive, the nicer, kind of like, I should never say chase the shiny object because don't, but just seeing that out there motivates you.
The amount of like success that is like in this area. Like we live near Scottsdale, and that's like one of the most like upscale, high-end, ritzy towns in the country. But it's like being from Iowa in a small town, that's just not the normal. Like it's obviously a different lifestyle, but it is like inspiring to see, and we meet a lot of really successful young people, and it like opens our perspective and it helps us network and like communicate, and it's very expansive. Like it's very good if you're, again, in your early 20s and you're trying to carve a path for like work, school, like whatever your like dream is. It does help when you're in a bigger city. It does help when you're around more people.
And not to interrupt you again, but half the time you think like, oh, you're just moving out to like a brand new state and like everyone else has already lived there lived there their whole lives. I will tell you, if you are from a smaller state and not from like the big city, moving out into the bigger states, almost 50% of the people are not born and raised there. They are just moving there. They might have lived there a couple of years. But
I think
they
Phoenix
were all kind of
where we are, and like within the valley, like this area is kind of known for that as like
like you don't see very.
No one's really born and raised
odd
here.
To see a born and raised kind of Arizonian.
Yeah, like and I think that's like my favorite part of being here is because like everyone also like that you meet is went through what you went through, so they're like really willing to help and like give you advice, and I feel like it makes the relationship and the friendship easier just because it's more genuine and they understand like when they were in your position how bad they needed a friend and stuff. But it's just a good experience, and I definitely recommend it to everyone, and I've said that before on here, but definitely get out of your hometown.
100%.
At least try it. Any opportunity you get. Okay, next question is so I'm going to combine the two kind of. What was the dynamic between you guys growing up? I feel like we've always been like close, but again, we're like a boy and a girl. It's not like we played the same sports or ever on the same team, so like at home we were always like close and got along. But we're closer now.
I would say
we're the closest we've ever been.
100%.
But we live together. So
we've gone through not even like ups and downs, but like when I went to college last year, I would say I went months, probably a month or two on end without even saying a word to you. We never really we were never the type of like siblings that would like call each other all the time, like FaceTime or something. Like we didn't really have any connections. I would see what she posted on social media and I would kind of like it and maybe comment on it every once in a while. But then at the same time, I guess we both knew that we had each other in our back pockets if we ever did need each other. But she knew she was doing well. I knew she was doing well. And with what I had, I was doing very well at the time, which what I thought was doing very well.
You were happy.
Like I was happy and I was content. Like I guess we really didn't need each other. But then every single time I would come back home for breaks or just come back home for the weekends, we would always go work out together. We would always go and do a lot of things together,
like
and
with our other brother. We would do it together. Yeah. And it's just like your typical like siblings, like you don't like do everything. Like we have different like separate lives. So like I was in school, I was living on my own. You were 2 hours away, going to school, doing your thing. So like in the recent years, we weren't that close, but we were close like when we were together.
Then I would say when I was in high school too, I would say we were a lot closer with like the working out aspect. She's always helped me with like the working out, like with my kind of social media and stuff. She was always like kind of my mentor who I would go to. And like when she was at Iowa and I was like a senior and junior in high school, I would always go down to Iowa City like a couple times a week and work out with her just because I knew it gets you in that atmosphere and I knew that was best for me. But then it was also a good bonding time for the two of us. And it's always better to work out with another person than by yourself. So I think like we've always been close, but then at the same time, we've been very distant, but still close at the same time, I guess.
I'd say like closer than like most probably siblings. Like we've always been like above average, like because we just have a lot of similar like
we have the same desires,
like we like
wants.
doing the same stuff, so it's always easy. We can just do it together and we get along really well. So we've just always been like great, like blessed in that sense. And then growing up, like as kids, I guess it was just like we would hang out. We were so close in age that you would hang out with a lot of my guy friends in high school. And growing up, so you were always kind of around too. Like if I had people over, you were typically hanging out with us if it was the guys, or you always got along with my girlfriends.
Yeah, and I guess I was always friends kind of with the older kids.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of who I always have surrounded myself with.
Yeah.
Like some of my best friends in high school, at the time I was a freshman and they were seniors. Like those were my friends. Hanging out with,
like my guy friends.
Yeah. And so like it all did kind of work out very well.
Yeah.
And I guess I got along with them so well, and I guess they did respect me for enough to want to go and do things with me as well. Like definitely was way more immature than all of them, and they knew that, and they would pick on me and like do all that. But it was just something.
That's just like a guy.
I accepted it, and I guess we have just always been.
I think we would have honestly even been closer in high school if I hadn't been dating my ex.
Yeah.
Because I like had that like.
Yeah.
Guy.
That's I guess kind of where we.
Probably drifted.
Yeah, kind of drifted because you were just kind of always with him, and then you really didn't even hang out with like the old other like guys that I used to be friends with.
Yeah,
and I just played kind of on like the same team as them, like in baseball and all these. So I was just kind of stayed close with them. But then even
like you were better friends with my guy friends at a point than I was. When I was dating him.
100%.
Sure. But yeah, we've always just had like correlations, I guess, that we've always been like
ties that would never broke.
Yeah. But now we're like obviously like closer than we've ever been because we live together and we do everything together, especially being in a new city and stuff, and both of us are single, so it's not like we have a significant other to go do stuff with, so we just go with each other, and it's like kind of perfect.
It is what it is. Yeah.
It's kind of perfect now.
It's a blessing in disguise sometimes.
Okay, this kind of leads into this. So this one said, living with your siblings, pros and cons. I feel like there's a lot of pros because
I would say
I've lived with like roommates, and then I've lived on my own, and now I've lived with a sibling. Pros, it's easy because one, it's your sibling, so you can kind of like, there's a lot of those like uncomfortable situations with the roommate where it's like you feel bad being like, clean up your stuff, or like be quiet, or you know, like you don't want to be like overstepping, but when it's your sibling, it's kind of different because like it's your sibling, so I can be like, Jake, clean it up, or I'm like, Jake, get up. Like I can be kind of honest and blunt, and it's not like awkward and overstepping, and it doesn't really cause any controversy because we get mad at each other, but then you just get over it because it's not personal. It's not like
and not to interrupt you, but it is always for the better too. It's not like I'll admit I used to love my sleep. I would go to bed at 2, 3 in the morning. I would wake up at 10:30, 11.
Yeah.
Chloe has always been the girl that goes to bed 8:30, 9, and she's up at 5:30, 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I would tell her, I want that. Like, I need to be like that. That's when I was kind of going through my whole process of my change. And there would be many nights during the week I would go to bed not till 2, but I would tell her, I mean, it's on like our Church of Twins accounts, like videos. I would tell her to come into my room and forcefully wake me up so I could get into that habit. It was never for the wrong reasons. We were yelling at each other or telling each other to do something because we were just generally like upset with each other. It was always to make each other better in a sense.
It was like benefiting something. Like if you're like, I don't know, like clean something up, it's because it needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
You know, or put something away or anything like that.
Like we need to go do this. You need to go to the grocery store. You need to go to the gym. Like
something like that.
It was always kind of a motivating thing. Like we knew we needed to do it. It was just nice that we had each other.
I guess we kind of utilize each other in a sense where we like are trying to better each other constantly. Like we're kind of hard on each other, but it's like we're trying to develop each other,
100%.
which is really nice because it's not like it just works. So there's a lot of pros, and there's pros because it's like we're siblings, so our parents come and stay, and then it's just like normal. It's not like it'd be weird if I had a roommate and my parents are crashing at my place for like a week at a time, but like with our parents, it's not weird, and it just makes a lot of like those little things just simpler and stuff. And we can just like split groceries, and it's more similar to like living with your significant other than a roommate, you know, because it's like just more.
It's more natural.
It is. It's just kind of like you do your thing, I do my thing. It doesn't have to be like right down the middle split. Cons, I don't really know.
I honestly I
don't really have any that I can think of.
That's like kind of the weirdest thing is, I would say we've gotten plenty like pissed off at each other. Like she's gone to her room and shut her door and hasn't talked to me for a couple hours, but I've done the exact same thing. Yeah. But I would say those cons, how we see our cons, is we see them as pros because it's making us a better person overall.
Yeah.
We know when we get, like, I know the buttons I can't push on her because I know the way she'll react. So it's just like learning, and that's a pro in my life. And when I find another person, or when she finds like another person, you just kind of know.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of, it's just like a trial and error. Like,
yeah.
Okay, I can't say this to her. I can't in the mornings. I can't make her go do all these things when she's doing something. I can't tell her to get out of doing that and go do something with me. Like,
yeah, like we have a routine.